Let's see now another type of tissue, which is the muscle tissue. And for the muscle tissue, we have three different types of muscles. We have skeletal muscles, we have cardiac muscles, and we have smooth muscles. I will explain them on these images. For the skeletal muscles, these are responsible for the movement. So they will move our body parts, and of course, they are voluntary. So we have control over them. These muscles usually are multi-nucleated, meaning that they have more than one nucleus. As you can see, all of these little dots are multinucleated. And of course, as you can see, these lines, these are striated, so they have these lines within them, striations. And we are going to understand this when we talk about muscles. The second group is the cardiac muscles. And the cardiac muscle, we will find them only in the heart. Okay, these are attached to bones or associated with bones. Here, the cardiac muscles are only in the heart, and of course, these are involuntary muscles, and they are single nucleated. So they have just one nucleus within them. Also, they have these striations, they have these thicker lines which called intercalated disc. All of this we are going to talk about when we study the heart. And the third group is the smooth muscles. And these smooth muscles, we will find them surrounding the hollow structures like blood vessels, intestine, esophagus, stomach. Yeah, we find them even in our skin. So there are plenty of spaces, plenty of areas where we will find these smooth muscles. These are also involuntary. We don't have control over them. And also they have single nucleus. So these are the three major types of muscles. Later we are going to study the skeletal muscles, and when we talk about the heart, we are going to re-see or revisit the cardiac muscles. The fourth group of connective tissues in our body is the nervous tissue. In nervous tissue, their main function is to transmit impulses. So they are specialized in communication. And here we have two types of cells there. We have the neurons, and these are specialized nervous system cells. Technically, they are responsible for the function of the nervous tissue, which is transmitting impulses or communication. Okay, they are responsible of generating these impulses and of course transmitting them. And they have their cell bodies, the dendrites, and their axons. We are going to study them. We are going to see them. And the other group is called glial cells. These would support the neurons. These support the neurons. So these, although they are part of the nervous tissue, but they are not performing the function of the nervous tissue. No, rather they support the neurons. They will help them to perform their functions. So they will surround and protect neurons. They will provide nutrients to neurons. So we will have they will have different functions, and we are going to see some of these cells later. So this is like a neuron. This is the neuron. This is the specialized cells, and all of these small cells here, these are glial cells. You can see the big difference in size between the neuron cell and the glial cells, and also you can see the differences in their presence. Usually the glial cells would outnumber the actual neuron cells, But without these, we are not able to communicate, we are not able to move, to talk, or to understand. These are very critical and important cells. And of course, these cells are supporting them and helping them. Next, we saw part of this in the first chapter when we talked about the levels of organizations. Levels of organization. And we talked about the chemical parts, the organelles, the cells, tissues. We talked now about the tissues. Now we are going to see the organs. And these organs, how they are forming the organ systems. Now, these organs will contain one or two of these tissue types, and they are joined together to perform a specific function. So usually each organ will perform one major function and some little other functions. Okay, but the group of organs helping in that one major function would form the organ system. And in our body, we have 11 organ systems that make up the human body. We have like the digestive system, which is composed of different organs: the mouth, the throat, stomach, intestines, and liver. We have the lymphatic system, the lymph node, tonsils, and spleen. So we have, as we said, we have 11 organ systems. Each one is made out of different organs. And we are going to see them chapter by chapter, starting with the integumentary system. But before going into that, let's understand some basic structures or formations within our body that we have inside our body, the body cavities. And for the body cavities, we have cavities on the anterior side of the body, and we have cavities on the posterior side of the body. Anterior, it means the front, and posterior, it means the back. On the frontal side, or on the frontal side, within the anterior cavities, we have subcavities. We have the thoracic cavity, okay, and then we have the abdominal cavity, and we have the pelvic cavity. Each one of these cavities contains different types of organs. And sometimes, like with the thoracic cavity, we have even subcavities. We have the precardial cavity and the pleural cavity. With the precardial cavities, we have the we have the heart. With the pleural cavities, we have the lungs. With the abdominal cavities, we have the digestive system organs. We're talking about the stomach, intestines, spleen, although it's not part of the digestive system, the liver, okay? All of these are located here. And then within the pelvic cavity, we have organs of urinary system and organs of reproductive system. So as you can see, different organs are located within different cavities. Now, for the posterior cavities, we have two cavities. We have the cranial cavity, which contains the brain, and the vertebral cavity, which contains the spinal cord. Okay, again, the same concept. Each cavity contains a different organ. The diaphragm separates the thoracic and abdominal cavities. So it is not part of the thoracic, it's not part of the abdominal cavity, it separates them. Now, along with the cavities, we have tissue membranes that they are lining the body cavities. We have the serous membranes, These are between the organs and the body cavities. See, for example, with the thoracic cavity, we have the lungs, right? These lungs are surrounded by another membrane that would protect them, because when they are moving, they are not going to rub against the bones of the thoracic cage. So otherwise they will be like worn out. So this serous membrane will protect the lungs from being rubbed against hard structures. So they will reduce the friction between the organs. Similarly, even with the heart here, the heart itself is surrounded by another cavity, another membrane that would reduce its friction when it is moving against the lungs, and so on. So the serous membrane would reduce friction between organs. Then we have the mucous membranes. These are lining airways, digestive tract, reproductive tract. They will lubricate surface and capture debris. Think of the mucous membrane outlining our body from inside. See, for example, this is the mouth. The mouth leads to the, I should draw it in. Let me draw it here. This is the mouth, for example. The mouth leads to the stomach, right? Through the through the esophagus would lead to the stomach, and from the stomach we have the intestine, and so on. So anything comes from outside, or not like this. The mucous membrane is lining all of these cavities. So anything comes from outside, the mucous membrane are going to deal with it first. So it's kind of a protection, okay? Isolation from foreign objects coming inside our body. So this is the mucous membrane. Same thing, we will find it in the lungs. In the lungs also, they are lined from inside with this mucous membrane. So any debris from the air, this is the mucous membrane is the first thing they are going to come in contact with. Then the third type of membranes, we have the synovial membrane. These are line spaces within the movable joints, within, for example, our knee. We have a synovial membrane. And then the last part, or the last membrane, we have the cutaneous membrane. This is forming our outer covering, which is our skin. So these are the four different types of membranes within our body. I will stop again here. I will give you a break, then we will continue.